Hello everyone, what better way of telling you what are the easiest 11s that you can accomplish for every single delve that exists currently in the War Within than a tier list? That I feel like I've never made a tier list on a video before, so this is going to be fascinating. So today we're going to be looking at all of the delves in the game as of Season 1, and actually, I even have a little surprise for you, because I am also going to include, not on the tier list because I don't have the images for it yet, but I'm going to include the new delves that are coming in Season 2 as well, because there's actually one that's going to be fantastic for this. So, for the reason why you would even want to do any 11s, because as we all know, delve rewards, the things that you get, pretty much end, if you're talking about the material stuff, the gear, all of that jazz, ends at tier 8. You don't really need to go above tier 8, and tier 8, especially at this point in the expansion, is very, very doable, especially solo. You can have no problem. But there is this achievement here, Delver of the Depths, is complete the War Within delves listed below on tier 11 with lives remaining. So that's all you need to do, is just have lives remaining and complete every single delve. Doesn't matter which story scenario, which is why we're going to look at all of the different story scenarios today and which are the easiest to do, or specifically just which are the easiest in each delve. So Delver of the Depths 4, that is what you get. I got that back in October, just for doing every single delve at an 11. And then there's also a feat of strength that you can get, in case you didn't see it, with a cool title, Immortal Spelunker, complete a delve without any deaths on tier 11. Now, you don't need to do that solo. You can do that with friends as well. There is the Undying Caver as well, that you can get for doing a delve without any deaths on tier 8 or higher, but really the Immortal Spelunker is what you want. None of this, as far as I know, is going away in Season 2. The only thing that's going to be going away in Season 2 is the Let Me Solo Him and everything tied to the seasonal stuff itself. But you should be able to still get the delve achievements, the Glory, or the Delver of the Depths 4, you should still be able to get that as well as Glory of the Delver. None of those are going away. Delve Lore Master, all that jazz. So anyways, let's go ahead and let's get into what the easiest delves are. Before any of that, however, it is important that you set up your brand as efficiently as possible for doing this. Even at a tier 11, even at my item level, a tier 11 is still pretty rough. Like, I'm 632. If I stop paying attention or am, doing something else and not really kicking when I need to or whatever, I'm probably going to die. But what I highly recommend is Bran Bronzebeard, obviously as high level as you can get him. After around level 45 or so, it doesn't really matter as much. He scales so slowly up to level 60 from 45 that it just doesn't really matter. So you get the Explorer's Ammunition. It starts off giving you like 10% or whatever it is. It slowly becomes 1% per level, and it's just not that big of a deal. So don't worry about that. What I definitely recommend doing for Bran before going for these 11s is go for healer, no matter what. It doesn't matter if you're a healer. It doesn't matter if he's a damaged. Just go healer, because it's going to make your life significantly easier. And then I choose to go with Porcelain Arrowhead Idol because that just increases my damage. Everything else is kind of, you can use it if you want. Unbreakable Iron Idol is not bad at all. I know I've heard of some folks using the which one is it? Idol of Final Will. That one's fine. It just only does tremendous physical damage to the first 2 enemies hit, and sometimes he jumps out of... Anyway, point is, I like Porcelain Arrowhead, but if you find something that you like more, use that more. For the utility, I use Amorphous Relic. You could also use Streamline Relic if you want more movement speed throughout, and there's also the Relic of Sentience you could use if healing is like a real issue for you. And then Time Lost Relic isn't terrible as long as you can stay in one spot, which I wouldn't recommend for certain delves, but it's not bad. Amorphous Relic really is the go-to, I think, for most people. But you want to go with healer, and the trick to Bran's healing is that you don't want to go pick up all the potions all at once. And what he does is when he heals, if you pick up a potion, it actually applies a hot to you. So it'll keep healing you for the duration as long as you have that one potion. So you don't want to run around and grab all 3 because then you're not extending the buff, the healing, the hot that you have on you. You're not extending it at all. So there's certain weak auras you can use if it makes it easier, but really you just want to make sure that you are getting one at a time. Wait for it to be about to fall off and then grab another one. And then when that one's about to fall off, then you grab another one. By the time that you've done that, he should be throwing out another set of potions, and you can go up to 4 stacks of those, which is a whole lot of healing. What I've seen people do, and why I think a lot of people are failing when they get to 11s, is they're getting all the potions all at once because they're so low on health, and then there's no heals for a super long time, but they're healthy, they're super healthy. It's just not the play. You're gonna need more healing than that. So that's what I would recommend. So anyways, let's look at the delves themselves here with this beautiful tier list that we're gonna be using here. So there are certain delves that are just, if you've done delves, you've spent the time there, you know that there are certain delves that are just easier than others. So we're going to get into those right away. Easiest 11s in the entire game. So this is how I've done it. Easiest 11s, at least one easy scenario. So it's got at least one that you can just go through, just wait for that scenario and do it there, which is what I recommend doing for almost all of them, because they almost all have a story scenario that's easier than the others. Tough regardless, but doable. So let's go ahead and we'll start with the easiest, in my opinion, the easiest delve in the entire game is Dread Pit. It doesn't matter if it's Lost Gems, it doesn't matter if it's Kobold Kidnapping, but the absolute best one for Dread Pit is smashing Skardyn. You make sure you talk to the earthen lady that's right at the front of the delve. You grab the little lantern thing, you throw it at the big groups of Skardyn, and they are docile and they're not going to do anything. So you're really only fighting a couple of packs at a time, and it's no big deal whatsoever. So I highly recommend doing this. This is probably the easiest one to get Immortal Spelunker as well. The only problem that you might have is the final boss does Stinging Swarm. You can actually just range that. If you're able to get far enough away quick enough when you know Stinging Swarm is coming up, you're not going to take any damage at all. So if you can do that, it's significantly easier. If you have a hard time staying and you don't have anything for it, it can be a hard final boss because that Stinging Swarm does a lot of damage. But Dread Pit is definitely one of the easiest that you can do. And then this might be a little controversial, but I'm actually putting Takrathon Abyss here. Takrathon Abyss has one of the easiest final bosses that exist in any of the delves, and I think the bosses are going to be probably the biggest pain point for folks. So in the Takrathon Abyss one, that is an underwater delve, so you want to use a Kalawak fishing pole, Noggenfogger elixir that turns you into the skeleton, be undead, be a warlock, use the Draenic water breathing potion that you can get on the auction house for like 50 gold a pop. Any of those things is going to make any of the underwater ones significantly better. So for Takrathon Abyss, there is, I think all of them are fairly easy, but Pheromone Fury is probably going to be one of the easiest ones you can do. So you break these boxes and then you run away after you break them because it will summon all these sharks, but you just don't fight the sharks and you'll be fine. All of them are pretty easy. Goblin Mischief is also not too bad because you go and you collect these repair boxes, and then you repair a machine towards like, I'd say probably like 3/4 through the delve, 2/3 through the delve, and that will allow you to skip that whole final third there and bring you right to the boss. What was I saying about the boss? The boss is, all of the stuff is super avoidable. So you ignore the spores on the ground, you run out of those, and you just defeat the boss, and that you'll be fine. As long as you're not getting hit by the giant mushrooms that are growing under you and you're watching his conal, you'll be fine. The boss won't do anything to you. And then actually, I'm going to go ahead and throw the Spiral Weave in here as well. The Spiral Weave has a similar final boss, has a couple of different final bosses. One of the easiest story scenarios you can get for Spiral Weave is the Puppet Master one, Strange Disturbances, because it's just a few waves at the end of it that you can deal with. And then the other ones from the Weaver with Love and Tortured Hostages, I believe, are not that bad either because the final boss is similar to the one in Dread Pit. But I believe you can actually even stun that one and it will summon some stuff. But the easiest for sure for Spiral Weave is the Strange Disturbances one. That one's actually really easy. And then I actually have to get it to Sinkhole yet again. So both of the water breathing underwater delves are actually, in my opinion, some of the easiest 11s to do. Takrathon was actually the first one I did super early on in War Within. I think I did it in September, early September, or whenever I think it was like the first or second week that delves were available seasonally. If you, again, water breathing, anything like that, you avoid the conal from the necromancers, and then just make sure you're dealing with the tricksters as best you can. You can stun them. You can stun the little thing that they make the mirror image, whatever you want to call it. The final bosses for all of those are not too bad at all. There's a lot of avoidables. It's just damage that you can avoid, and that is going to be huge. So then moving on, so those are the ones that I think are like the easiest. I might add another one to this, but for right now, I'm actually going to just do Underkeep. At least one easy scenario is, I'm going to put that as Underkeep. Runaway Evolution is one where these big abominations are running throughout the delve, and you have to complete it to get these pheromones to stop them, to eventually be able to defeat them. That's the final objective. However, you can also use those abominations to damage all of the other enemies. So if you're having trouble keeping up with the other enemies, that's what you can do. There's a few other story scenarios that I don't think are too bad. There's one that's like entirely wave-based, which is the evolved story scenario, blanking on the name of that one, but like that one's not too bad. The final boss is just like dodge rings, and it takes a while to kill them, but you should be fine, especially again if you're using Bran as a healer. And then actually I'm going to put Earthcrawl Mines in there as well as at least one easy scenario, and that one is Precious Ores. So in Earthcrawl Mines, you're dealing with the same final boss every single time, so as long as you're kicking the curse and the big damage one that it does at the end, it's like its longest cast, you want to make sure that's kicked. The final boss is pretty easy, but Earthcrawl Mines also has Precious Ores, which works similarly to Underkeep. You can use the carts to damage all of the enemies. You just want to watch out that you're not getting hit by those carts, and that's not too bad itself. And then I'm actually going to put Waterworks here as at least one easy scenario. You do have to deal with the boss at the end, Waxface, which is pretty tough. Because he does the throw wax, which chunks pretty hard. They did nerf it. And then he does the burn away, which I found that if you get into the green before burn away goes, you're going to take less damage. But the big scenario that you're looking for in Waterworks to be able to do it at an 11 at a pretty accessible level is going to be Stomping Some Sense. That's going to allow you to fill up the bar very quickly and then skip a whole bunch of enemies. That one you can skip. You can skip so much. So Nightfall, not Nightfall, Sanctum, Mycomancer Cavern is also going to be a scenario where you can use the spore bits to do a bunch of damage to things. I find these to be fairly annoying. I'm going to put Fungal Folly actually here as well. Explorer's Competition in Fungal Folly is the best one for me. It's a lot of one-on-one fights with enemies that don't do anything that's like that dramatic. You should be fine, especially with Bran as a healer. But again, using those spore bits to do damage to things, it's just going to be better. The final boss in Fungal Folly does it spins a lot. That one can just be annoying, and it just fills up the room, but it's not doing that much damage, so you should be fine. Mycomancer Cavern, the story scenario you're looking for that one is Mushroom Morsel. My reasoning for that is because you fight the boss as soon as you go into the delve on that scenario. So if you're able to kill the boss, then you're able to do the whole rest of the delve, no problem. So that is just something to keep in mind. That one I would actually highly recommend. You can also use that bosses will summon spore bits. You can use those to hurt it. So not too bad. Both of those, while these are like not ones I enjoy doing, like I don't think they're wildly fun. Those ones are still, there's at least one like easy scenario, tackable. So Mushroom Morsel in Mycomancer Cavern, Fungal Folly is going to be the Explorer's Competition, in my opinion. Tough but doable regardless. So I'm actually going to put Skittering Breach in here, and it's because Skittering Breach, I don't think there's like a few. I find that there's casters in here. There's a mix between the Nerubians and then the same type of enemies that you'll find in like Nightfall Sanctum, of these human dudes that will cast void magic and stuff at you. And I just find that Skittering Breach can be tough no matter what, because it's so many things can cast in this one. So if you just don't have a lot of kicks, it could be kind of tough. There is one to completely stay away from in Skittering Breach, and that, in my opinion, is Shadow Realm. Shadow Realm is one where you have to use an extra action button to clear all the shadows around these like totem things that you then need to, you have to clear everything first and then you can damage the totem. It stinks. I don't like doing it. So Shadow Realm is one that I don't recommend. But The other ones, Old Rituals and Renilash Beckons. So Old Rituals and Renilash Beckons are the two in Skittering Breach that I would look out for. Those are definitely going to be better than Shadow Realm. If you see Shadow Realm up and you're trying to do that 11, I just recommend skipping it. Let's go into Nightfall Sanctum, because that is actually in a similar, in my opinion, that's in a similar spot where this can either be an incredibly easy delve or an incredibly hard delve. So Signal Noise is one that I don't know if I would entirely recommend doing. I just actually did it this morning on an 11, just to feel it out with Bran as a DPS, just to see. And no deaths or anything, but again, my item level's pretty high. And I'm on my tank, my main. The thing about Signal Noise is you defeat the final boss and then he summons like another final boss, so you have to fight two. And then chat, comments, I am not entirely positive. Nightfall Sanctum, there's Kyron's Assault and Dark Ritual. One of those has 3 bosses at the very end. You like go back to the beginning of the delve and you have to fight 3 bosses. If that is, I don't know if that's Dark Ritual or Kyron's Assault. I've tried finding it out and I am not able to. But on an 11, I don't recommend doing whichever one starts you at the back of the delve and has you go forward and finishes at the front, because that means you have to fight those 3 bosses. I don't recommend doing that delve at all. I believe that's Dark Ritual. I'm pretty sure Kyron's Assault is the easiest one, but I believe it's Dark Ritual. So maybe Nightfall Sanctum should actually go into at least one scenario, but it's not easy, right? You still have to deal with all of those casters and everything else that are super annoying. The gimmick of the delve is really easy in Nightfall Sanctum. It puts these giant purple circles on the ground, and you just have to avoid those. If you do step into them, you're going to get targeted by very slow moving, easy swirls that you just get out of. So Nightfall Sanctum is tough, but still doable. And again, the story scenario that you want to shoot for there, I'm pretty sure is Kyron's Assault. I think Dark Ritual is the one where you have to deal with the 3 at the end. And finally, Kriegval's Rest. Kriegval's Rest is not a delve that I think people love doing. At least that's been my experience when talking to folks. But there are some of the delves that are a little bit easier for that one. That was actually one of the first stories that I completed, was Kriegval's Rest. So you have the 3 different ones. Any of the Kobold ones can be kind of tough because those Taskmasters that are there, you just want to get out of their conal attacks. And then the Fireball, there's like the little Cobalt Mystics. You want to kick their fireballs as much as you can, because it could just be a little overwhelming. So in Kriegval's Rest, you have Lost Keepsakes, Dagran's Day Out, and Swarming Kobolds. The Lost Keepsakes one isn't the worst. And Dagran's Day Out is actually pretty straightforward as well, because you get to hang out with Dagran and stuff. But it's still kind of tough because you're dealing with the kobolds. The one story scenario that I would absolutely recommend skipping if you see it for Kriegval's and you want that 11 is Swarming Kobolds. Just don't do it. You have to kill basically everything in there, and it's just annoying and tough. And it's going to mean that you're going to be forced to fight some of those mini bosses that are in these delves that are at an 11. I just don't recommend doing Kriegval's Rest Swarming Kobolds. Dagran's Day Out, Lost Keepsakes, those are very straightforward. They allow you to skip a whole lot of stuff, a lot more than Swarming Kobolds. So that's it. Those are the delves that are going to be the easiest to do at an 11. So let's go over the story scenarios that I would recommend for every single one of these real quick right at the end, so that you can hopefully get them done. Dread Pit, Smashing Skardyn is going to be the best. Takrathon Abyss, really any of them are going to be good for you, but the one that I'm recommending is going to be, let's go with Goblin Mischief, because you get to skip for sure that whole third at the end. If the mini boss is in a spot and you don't want to fight that mini boss for whatever reason, if it is on top of one of the goblin things, you can just reset the delve at any point and go back in. You don't need to do anything else. You just reset it and hope that the mini boss is somewhere where you don't need it. Especially with Takrathon, if you're doing Goblin Mischief, you can hopefully reset it so the mini boss is like in that final 1/3 that you can skip completely by using the Goblin mech. Spiral Weave, Strange Disturbances is going to be the easiest no matter what, because that wave-based final boss at the end is super, super easy, and the delve itself is very straightforward. So that Strange Disturbances is the way to go for Spiral Weave. For Sinkhole, For Sinkhole, I would recommend doing Illusory Rescue. Illusory Rescue is one where you have to save these Arathi, but the Arathi are going to be, there's like a faint blue line coming out of some of them and not others. The ones that don't have a faint blue line, those are the ones that you actually want to rescue. So again, you get to see it and you get to decide that those are the ones you want to go for. So Sinkhole Illusory Rescue definitely is my recommended. For Underkeep, Underkeep is definitely going to be, in my opinion, Runaway Evolution, unless you can't kill the Abominations. Like if the Abominations are doing a lot of damage to you, because they do, then I would recommend Evolved Research. Evolved Research in Underkeep is the wave-based one, so as long as you can keep up with the waves, you'll be just fine. Again, you have to deal with that final boss. It's a lot about just positioning and getting out of those lines, but again, brand with a healer, you'll be fine. Earthcrawl Mines, Precious Ores is the way to go. That's it. Just use the carts. Waterworks, you're going to want to go with Stomping Some Sense. That's going to be the best for you. You get to skip a whole bunch of stuff. Stomping Some Sense is really the only easy scenario there, but it is easy. Mycomancer Cavern, again, Mushroom Morsel is going to be the one that you want for that one. Fungal Folly Explorers Competition is probably going to be the best, although I have heard folks say that they really enjoy they think that Lost Miners is the easiest one. Spreading Decay is the one that you don't want to touch at all in Fungal Folly for an 11, in my opinion. So Explorers Competition is my favorite, but you know, your mileage may vary. Skittering Breach. Skittering Breach, again, I would recommend honestly, any of them that aren't Shadow Realm. Renilash Beckons is a little bit rarer of one. I would probably say Renilash Beckons as your Skittering Breach being the story scenario to look out for, but Old Rituals, you're not going to go wrong either with that. So keep that in mind as you go. Just don't touch Shadow Realm. Nightfall Sanctum, again, I'm pretty sure it's Kyron's Assault. Kyron's Assault is the one that does not have the 3 bosses at the end and also isn't the one that's going to summon another boss after he dies on the airship. So Nightfall Sanctum, I would go with Kyron's Assault, unless I'm wrong and it's Dark Ritual. I cannot find the info and it's not up, so I can't double check. Kriegval's Rest, again, I would go with the Dagran's Day Out, because 1, you get to hang out with Dagran, and 2, it's not swarming kobolds. As long as it's not swarming kobolds, you should be okay. But that's it. And then real quick, I wanted to do, in case you're finding this video later, the 2 new season 2 delves. We have Side Street Sluice and Excavation 9. Excavation 9 is going to be just a great delve to do in general. There is, I think all of those are going to be pretty more accessible than season 1 delves. And don't forget that I did this tier list without the new story scenarios for all of these. They have not been testable yet, so I have not tested them. So keep that in mind. I will do an update in season 2 for easiest 11s to do, story scenarios, blah, blah, blah. So for I have my notes. So for Excavation 9 in season 2, you're going to want to do Rowdy Rifts. I think Rowdy Rifts is a really good one. It's one where you use a rift, puts you in the back of the delve, and you go through the delve basically in reverse. And the final boss is one that is very easy to deal with mechanically and is just going to involve some kiting stuff. So you're going to want to make sure the area around him is fairly clear, but that one is really not too bad. And that final boss is pretty easy. The Black Blood Prophets could also be, depending on tuning, could also be easy or really hard, because you have to do excavation stuff, and depending on the mobs that the excavator summons or while you're guarding the excavator could be a little bit more challenging, but that one was fairly easy too. So my opinion, Rowdy Rifts is going to be great, but Black Blood Prophets will also be accessible and easy. The third one there is also great. All of these delves are really good. When it gets to Side Street Sluice, though, there is one that is going to be the best, hands down, period, unless the final boss is as wildly overtuned as it is right now in PTR, but that's Mr. Delver. Mr. Delver is a story scenario. You control a bot. That bot can actually use one of its abilities to stun everything. Just like, it's not even a real stun, it's like a disorient. They're just confused, but they also take 25% increased damage. The whole pack that you use this bot on, and the bot doesn't have a cooldown. So you can get the bot, stun them, do some damage, maybe even run back, get the bot again, stun them again. You might be able to do stuff like that. So Mr. Delver is going to be your best bet. Again, I'll do a season 2 update, but that's it. That's your easiest delves. And if you are curious about which delve is up at any time every day. I do a series, The Daily Delve. You can find out which story scenario is up, and I will try to point out which ones are good for 11s that day. So there you go. And YouTube thinks you want to watch a video that's over there, and then don't forget to subscribe for more delve content and story content and reactions and all that jazz. Okay, I love you. Never give up, never surrender. Bye, everyone.